again, Koji from Celestial Rhythms. So as I'm recording this, it's the 22nd of October and it's very early morning. Just can't resist in such intense times, such eventful times. And I'm just starting here with this little tweet by Amazing Polly. Is it the apocalypse? So yes, things are going to get better. Hang on tight. Praise God. Learn to recognize truth. Yeah, it's really happening. And what is the real last final catalyst? I think I found it. Okay, let me just close this window here and this window for now. Okay, here we go. Jupiter. Jupiter is the one. Jupiter is the fastest rotating body in our solar system. Whenever Jupiter is involved, then things get into motion. So Jupiter is at present in hexagram 54, which is a very powerful hexagram. I just want to show you here quickly the line structure of it. That's hexagram 54, which is called the Marrying Maiden. It is the Yin Yang symbol in its essence. See, you have the two dark lines and the mirroring to, I mean, I should say the two yang lines. They're actually, this is actually light energy. This is prime divine intent. That's the male lines. The male is below, the feminine above, and they're interconnected. You see, it's like this is the white dot in the black part of the I Ching of the Yin Yang symbol, and this is the black eye in the white part of the Yin Yang symbol. So they're really intertwined, and the feminine is above, the masculine is below. That means intuition is in the lead. Now the hexagram 54 was named after the emperor's concubine, who's really the true ruler. It is the feminine force behind the emperor who sways the man's mind to act in certain ways. That's the idea. So it is a very subtle influence of the feminine energy, and in that sense also the masculine energy is in a position of receiving and of surrendering to channel that gentle energy and give it solid expression. So this is a key hexagram, and through the last years Pluto and Saturn have been moving through this central phase of Capricorn. The degrees are 1507-30 till 2045. That is based on the teachings of the human design system, which is giving the overlay of the 64 hexagrams over the zodiac. So we can subdivide these 5+ degrees into 6 equal parts. And if we do that, then the last segment, the last line is activated when Jupiter, in this case, crosses 19 degrees Capricorn, 48 minutes 30 seconds. And that is happening just a few hours in the future from when I'm recording this. Now, why do I think this is such a powerful moment? Well, there's this chart in itself says many things. The Sun and the Earth are in an exact T-square with the MCIC axis. The black moon is right here, so within a day Earth will be exactly conjunct the dark moon, or as seen from Earth itself, the Sun and the dark moon will have an opposition, which is really zooming in on the shadow. That's what this means. It's the time. There's 2 moments every year when this happens, when the Sun and Earth align with the black moon. These are always times when the collective view is pulled towards something dark and difficult, and in a way of a blind spot which has to be looked at and resolved. What makes me particularly convinced that this is a starting point is that with Jupiter's ingress into the 6th line of hexagram 54, the hexagram changes into hexagram 38, which is opposition. 38 is when the 2 polar opposites are coming to the full light of day, and when they openly are in exhibiting their conflict. Interesting is that this is also the American nation's Earth sign, 38. So there's a resonance there too. Jupiter in that topmost line of hexagram 54 is really pushing the envelope, reactivating really, or I would say bringing to life the moment when Jupiter turned direct back in October. Let me show you this chart and you will immediately see what I mean. That was actually in September 12, 2020. That's again for Washington. And I mean, this chart by in itself, I talked about that, I'm sure I did make at least a post. This showed that for these 7 months roughly, when Jupiter will go forward again through the zodiac, starting at 1724 Capricorn, all the way into Aquarius for the next 12 months or so, venturing forward for the next 7 months or so forward for sure, then retrograde, and then again forward. It's kind of a 7, 5, 7, 5. That's the rhythm. It's like a waving pattern, and always when the wave is at its lowest place, that's when the new cycle starts. In that sense, Jupiter, Earth, Sun dance. So this moment decided pretty much what the 7 months will be expressing us in Washington, and I guess it was very clear for anyone fond of astrology and understanding with the black moon and Aries here in narrow conjunction right at the ascendant. This would be the time when all that dark stuff, dark shadows come into the open, and that all will be really, as we say, hitting the fan. And now look at the degrees. That was back in September when the seeds were sown. The ascendant 25-30 Aries. If we now go into the ingress of Jupiter into the 6th line of hexagram 54, then we have exactly that degree, 25-37 versus 25-30, so bare 7 minutes in difference from the exact same axis in opposition. That is an activation, a strong activation. Now if we stay for a moment with this base chart, aside from this black moon Mars Aries conjunction here right at the ascendant, which was clearly giving it away, this would be a very intense and warlike phase with Mars and also Uranus here in the 1st house, under a moon Pluto opposition. Lots of shifts, changes, energy shifts, and power what you call that, passing the power from one side to the other, really. That's also in that moon Pluto opposition here, in a nice beautiful trine with the Sun and Earth, so forming what's called a mystic rectangle, with Neptune here too, meaning that transition will be very etheric, almost very smooth in many ways, also that many people don't really get it yet. It's kind of still hidden in many ways, or played out in a way that there's multiple layers, and there's all the storylines of deception which are playing into the story too, but in a most interestingly favorable way. I mean, the whole time we also have this sextile between Neptune and Jupiter, which is a friendly aspect, and Jupiter and Neptune together is about a new perspective, optimistic outlook into what's ahead. Interesting in this chart also this Mercury exactly conjunct the vertex, which is the higher dimensional descendant, kind of the spiritual focal point, and Astrea, that asteroid which is about resolving problems, which always comes in when there's some cleanup, some problems, when someone needs help. There's Astrea at hand. Astrea, the goddess who stayed longest on Earth, long after things had gone sour, as the story goes. All the other gods already were up in the Olymp, having escaped because things had turned so weird and strange and rotten that they escaped. So Astrea stays. Astrea is there to give hand and to help and to resolve. So this is very auspicious has been right from the start when we saw this in September, that something really great was on its way. Also with this whole stellium, which I talked about repeatedly, particularly in this case, it's Palace. It's about the understanding and seeing the complexity. It's the asteroid which rules science and art, which is higher intelligence, able to put facts into sequence. So anyway, this resonance with this base chart tells me that the moment has come for this Jupiter energy to be fully activated, almost as if the fuse is now lit. And as we get into the next few days with the Sun entering Scorpio just around the corner, and then the Sun exactly opposing the dark moon, and this is just the beginning. So we are getting into really deep waters. What's further really outstanding here is Solaris. Solaris is a centaur who's sacrificing himself in the sense to follow his beloved. Hilanome was killed in a battle, and Solaris, a young, beautiful centaur, killed himself just to follow his mate, to be with her. So it is that deep dedication and that ability to take even to even be killed in that pursuit of what truly matters. So there's this energy which just entered Leo. I mentioned that, I guess it was on the 13th round when we had that first big escalation in energies and also in events, which I had pointed toward, that this would be really the kickoff of big stuff, real action. And we're still in the building phase, but as it's getting pushed to the edge, and I mentioned that waterfall with those rapids, that's what we're feeling. Now we're not yet at the waterfall moment. This will probably be something like November 3rd, the landslide of Donald Trump, which is obvious to anyone who's observing. It's just a matter of time for anyone and everyone to realize that this is really happening, and so many people will be so shocked. I mean, the silent majority, we know, is already on board, but it's those maybe 15% or so which have the loudest mouths, which are constantly amplified by the social media's echo chambers and all the mainstream media's channels, all the TV stations. That's those 15%, and that's really what keeps the majority still in doubt. Anyway, that all is about to change. We're in that last final countdown, the last 15 days, and it will be biblical. We are entering such a wonderful period, such a glorious time. We're not yet there fully. There's still quite some work to do, but the silver lining is already there. Thanks for joining and listening. Again, support me if you wish. I have a Patreon account, and I usually put the link under my videos too. That would be very appreciated. And thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the ride. It's exciting. Yeah, as Polly says, let me just zoom back to that to end. It is the apocalypse. So yes, things are going to get better. Hang on tight, praise God, learn to recognize truth. Even if things really feel like they are starting to unravel, will anything ever change for the better? Oh yes, believe me, astrology tells it very clearly. Thanks for joining and listening, and till soon.